Welcome to Wine and Real Estate, the podcast where we drink wine, we have fun, and we learn about real estate investing. Real estate investing is so much more than just buying buildings. It's about building relationships, building your dreams, building your dream lifestyle, customizing your life. What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? It's much more than money. It's more than getting rich. It's a different type of wealth. It's the wealth of time, the wealth of freedom. And now let's get to the wine and the real estate. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wine and Real Estate. Jennifer, let's drink to that.
Yes, we're drinking a Carmenère from Chile.
And welcome to Nassir.
Yes.
So,
He's
Nassir,
drinking some Starbucks. That's good too.
a nice vintage. So welcome, Nassir. Can you tell us about yourself? Why the 50 or 50 investor group?
Right.
And what's the story behind you? And I'll let Jennifer ask questions as well.
Sounds good to me. Thanks for the invitation. Really appreciate your time and being on the podcast. I remember, all the time I've been listening to you guys and, wine, and I couldn't show that to my wife that I'm keep drinking the wine on the calls, but
on the job.
She's upstairs. But thanks again. Yeah. So 50 Investor Group really came to, for multiple reasons. One is I turned 50 at one point, and the goal was basically really helping others to build their nest egg and retirement. So I thought, there are many Canadians today even at 50, there is no plan for retirement, right? So I thought, 50 is one thing, and 50, sometimes I like to play soccer. So, 50 is like forfeit, if you don't show up in action, or play the game. By default, it used to be 50, when I was growing up, when the other team doesn't show up, by default is 50, So I thought, building a nest, helping other people to build their nest and retirement, and call it 50 because if you don't take an action, then it's a 5 goal in your basically in your goal,
Yeah,
and
that's
you
a good
lost
point.
and you lost the game. So so I came up with that, and the purpose really was educate people, and my goal has been really helping as myself being here for 25-30 years now, and the whole goal was let me help at least one individual to buy one property. You don't need to buy 10 properties. You can buy one property and it will change your life. And that was really the starting point of this 50 investor group.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah. And that's such a good point. I love the soccer analogy because that's so true. If you don't do anything, by the time you're kind of 50, it's kind of like you folded in your cards and you're
done.
That's right. You're huffing and puffing and everything, like you start liking to watch TV and stuff like that. So really, yeah. So I thought, we need to educate Canadians. I used to hear somebody saying that it's amazing that all our Canadians, they are not taking action, but the foreign and visitors are taking action.
I know.
Right? So that's and why that one property can change people's life.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear it, Nassir. How did you get started? Like, what made you think about becoming an investor?
It was multiple things. One was really, what's the ideal way of building wealth? So I give you a background story a little bit. I used to invest in stock, and you remember the company in Ottawa, Coral Draw, Coral,
Oh, yes,
right?
It was everywhere.
Company. Yeah. So in those days, Coral came up with, everything was like a big thing about Linux, Unix, and all those operating systems that were coming out. So Coral jumped into it, and the stock price was just hiking up, right? Going up. So I did invest money into them, and unfortunately, during that period of time, 1 week, really, we're talking about 1 week, my daughter was a little bit sick. So we had to go to the hospital, knowing that, a couple of days later, they kept her for 3-4 days there.
Oh, wow.
And What was really interesting is that those 3 to 4 days, really the stock market just went up and then went down completely.
Oh no.
Oh
So the
boy.
time, so I mean, it's not too much money, but at that time it was a lot for me because I didn't have
Yeah.
any money. I had some good savings, and I said, you know what, let me invest in this. It looks pretty good with no education and everything like that. That's another mistake I made there.
Mhm.
So I invested about $5,000, and then when I came back from the hospital in 3 days, I end up with about $100.
Oh,
So
Oh boy.
ouch.
yeah, exactly. So what really sparked me, I said, you know what, real estate is something that no matter if it crashes, you still have a tangible building. You can
Yeah.
touch it. You can touch it.
Mhm.
Instead, I was left with the paper. So
Can't do
um,
much with that. And
not
nowadays,
much.
it's not even paper, it's like an email and a number.
That's right. So I thought, you know what, I prefer to leave a brick than leave a paper. So that's how I started the journey.
Mm.
The other thing I kind of came up to my mind is what's the best way of making a mistake, losing money, uh, and also what do you say? Claim that in your taxes that you
Yeah.
lost money. So I'm like, that's a pretty legitimate business, right? Because we hear people doing education. They're putting money in RSP, or they're putting money into these other scheme that pay some charity for education, and you get the tax receipts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I thought, you know what, maybe I think the building or apartment or house, it meets that criteria that if I lose money, it is still paying to myself. I'm deducting my
Yeah.
employment income, right? So that was the best analogy ever I found. It's like taking the money and I'm putting back into my house, which is really you financing your own house. Even though you're losing money, technically you are putting the money back into your property, right? So that's how the whole thing started. I'm like, okay, I think this makes sense. Let's do it this way.
Mm.
So the second thing that came up, and the hard part that was, is convincing my wife that this is the best approach.
Yeah, especially after seeing the whole
Yeah.
Corral debacle.
Yes.
She must have been like,
She's like,
yeah.
oh, I don't know if
Oh,
I trust you after that
I
one.
know you too risky, man. I said, yeah, I was born in Africa. What can I say? Everything is, it's a risk. So I'm used to that. So I'm a risk taker. So what I did is to convince her, I created a business case where I said, honey, let me buy a property. And then you invest money in our ESP for kids. And then my education money will be in the property. And then in a year or 2 years later, let's
That's
compare what
perfect.
is the asset appreciation.
Oh,
Wow. Oh my goodness. That
I
must
want to
be.
hear about that.
Yeah. So in about year and a half, 2 years, my Brampton property was 100,000 more value. The
Wow.
brick and mortar was $100,000 more compared to her RESP, which was
Yeah, there's
going at
no way you can match up. I mean,
2%. So then we calculated. We were sitting down one day, I remember, and we calculated. And she's like, "You know what? You seem to be right." I said, "Yeah, I know. No kidding, honey. It took me a year to prove it to you."
so it's good. You were right, and not being right just for the sake of being right, but
No,
actually having a good investment vehicle. That's awesome.
But what
that's
a
right.
great
Yeah,
comparison as well, because a lot of people do use the RESP vehicle to invest for their kids' education. And we actually did that
Oh
when we
yes.
were younger, and
yeah,
now our son's going to university, and we're like,
There's not much
oh,
there.
that's
that's
right.
not much there, but we
Yeah,
could have done so much better if we, like, with hindsight being 2020, if we had done it in real estate investing, it would have been so much better for him going to university.
absolutely.
If we had just
Yeah,
given him like a duplex, you know.
I know. I know.
Here's a
If they were
duplex.
born,
Bye.
as soon as they are born, here's a gift. Here's the keys.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Even a condo, something small, doesn't have to be
Yeah,
enormous. Just like you
exactly.
said, that appreciation and that building's always there because our RESPs actually lost money for a while because of 2008, 2009. Our kids are
Yeah,
born before that. So there was a major dip.
Mhm.
So it took years to get back to where we were. And now we're seeing a little bit of a return, but it's
absolutely.
minimal.
It's kind of those things when the kids are born, you have the photographer calling you, there is a
Yeah,
RESP guy calling you, all of these things happening at the same time. So really, this was interesting because it was the vehicle that everybody knew about, right? RESP, the guy shows up at your home and
that's
shows you the
it.
plan. Look at this, it's beautiful. The government
Easy and
government gives you this money. But when we did the comparison, it was we were putting money for sure for all our three kids. But on the hindsight, when you compare, the real estate always showed that you are not doing minuses, right? Like I said, my mindset was more, if even if I lose, I have a building which I can always rent it out.
yeah, and then
Mhm.
pull the rent money to
That's
pay
right.
for studies or the
That's
cash
right.
flow. I mean, there's many profit centers. You could refinance the place.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So, So since then, I think after that comparison, it really worked out.
Mhm.
And Yeah, we kind of basically said this is the best vehicle. Anything that you lose, you consider it as what do you call a tuition fee, right?
Yeah,
Because you're losing money, but you're learning at the same time, and that loss is taxable, and it became like a big cycle. It's like putting money from left to right pocket,
Mhm.
and you
Oh,
deduct it, right? So we really liked that approach.
that's such a good point as well. And I think that even when you make mistakes in real estate, and I'm sure you'll confirm that with us, Nassir, is you've lost a little bit of money, but you're still making money.
yeah,
It's
it's
like
rare that you're fully
that you're
negative.
that you're fully negative in real estate investment.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely. So what was really interesting is when I went to do my taxes, I did not know these other things that it could be deductible, right? So like the
Yeah,
interest payment was a deductible, a portion of it, but
mhm.
it was. So at the end of the day, the guy, the tax,
depreciation. There's all
exactly,
kinds of profit centers and things you can use.
exactly. But the basic one was, going to, without looking the appreciation, going to do the taxes, and it still shows that you made money. Why? Because of the interest deduction, expense deduction. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, I wanted to lose money, so
Yes.
I can reduce my income.
So, Nassir, you mentioned a property in Brampton. Is that
Yes.
part of your niche? Is that where you're investing mainly?
Correct. So I started investing in Brampton in the 2008, when everybody was saying don't do it, and when we were going through
After
a
the
beautiful
crash.
crash,
Yeah, it's good timing.
good
Didn't happen
timing.
in Canada, but it kind
Yeah,
of slowed down a little bit.
exactly. Yeah, but the news is the news, right? What you see on TV, everything is crashing.
Yeah.
So I basically decided to invest in Brampton because it was the backyard. And then slowly after purchasing two semi-detached, I kind of couldn't afford it. So I started looking for other market where I have down payment. So I went and started in Kitchener. So I got a nice semi-detached there, which I still own. And after that, there was a beautiful duplex that was there in St. Catherine. So if you look at my strategy, I'm just following the 401 along,
Oh,
Yeah.
right?
okay.
So my neighborhood is so going to the west side, but I'm going Brampton, Kitchener, St. Catherine 403, and then I did another one in Windsor as well as
Oh,
a.
perfect. So yeah, that's all the
So
way
I
down to
just follow
401.
401, yes, yeah, and I follow Walmart. Where I see Walmarts, that's where I follow them as well.
It's smart because they
Yeah.
do a ton of market studies. So if they're building or staying somewhere or investing in a community, there is something going on.
Must be
So
Yeah, or if
something,
you're
yeah.
drinking Starbucks, I mean, Starbucks is always following the next cities that are
Trend,
having
yeah.
massive growth. So just look for the Starbucks.
That's
yes.
right. Yeah, it's amazing, right? Sometimes they go into this neighborhood that doesn't make any sense, right? But they are looking at 5, 10 years, like projection, how
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
neighborhood
exactly.
will be changing, right? So,
Might as well
so
take
that
advantage of that.
yes, exactly. They do the research for you.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why their coffee is expensive. You're paying for their research, so it's
That's
okay.
true. That's true. 100%. Yes, yes. Yeah, I think they do all those studies. So basically, I studied in Brampton, and then slowly I just kind of
Work your
diversified in
way to
other
Windsor.
markets. Yeah. So the other reason was also diversification. I know it's sometimes people say it's focused in one area, but again, at that time I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me move to 401 what I can afford. But also the mindset was, let me diversify in case the jobs in Brampton, or because Brampton at that time was really Chrysler heavy,
Oh
right?
wow, yeah.
So that's kind of a nature of the the city. It was like Chrysler plants and all that, but then
Mm.
it changed a lot to transportation, healthcare. It
It's
changed
more
slowly.
diversified
Yeah.
now, but kind of like Oshawa was GM for many, many
Exactly.
years. Now, not so
Yeah.
much.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Ottawa was GM. Sorry, Oshawa was the GM, and then Brampton was Chrysler, and then Oakville and all those guys, they were Ford.
Ford,
So
yeah.
it was kind of a town like that. So I thought, okay, let me put in other sector where there is different economy, and what's the worst case? I will still have a building that I can always use and give
That's
it to my
it.
kids. The whole
Mhm.
thing was about, when you lose something, the building you don't lose. I can pass it on to the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
They
Yeah.
can move in there, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of options.
Yeah. Actually, the St. Catherine property, when we purchased, me and my wife, we were sitting at a Greek restaurant right beside the property, and we are like, I think we can retire here. We can move there in
It's a
case
nice
of.
Oh
city.
wow.
It's a nice city, there is Greek restaurant and everything. So
Wineries nearby.
exactly, exactly. Even though I sneak out and drink something, but I will have some wine without her, but that's okay. I will.
Wow.
But it was something like that we kind of felt comfortable investing there. And because it was duplex, we said, you know what, this can pay by itself, and we can live for free, and we can
Yeah.
travel the world by having still the house in Canada. And
Yeah, and you
that's
have
that's
your
the kind of.
PSI, and then you can travel where you'd like.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. So that's what the kind of things where we were thinking when we were purchasing these properties. And we had the names for them, right? So this is for Europe trip, this is for Cuba vacations and stuff like that. So it has a
Ooh, I love
goal.
that though, because it
Yeah, it's
gives you.
motivation.
That's it. It's
That's right.
even more motivating than just buying a house. Sometimes you're like, oh, it's like an ugly place or something I don't like. But if
Yeah,
you name it, like you said,
yeah,
Europe 3 or whatever, that,
yeah.
wow, great tip. I love that, Nassir.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what I did is, when I bought the Kitchener property, my wife was like, "We gotta do a vacation, go somewhere for three
Yeah.
weeks." And the cost
Yeah.
was $15,000. I said, "No worries, somebody will pay for it." So we bought the property, and it's a planning thing, right? So
Yeah.
in 2 years, we say we're gonna go do a 3-week vacation, and it's gonna cost us 15 to 20. So I
How do
said,
you finance it?
how do I finance it? So I said, let me buy this property, which is a good deal, and appreciation in the time we go on vacation will be double than the cost of vacation.
Yeah.
So I said, let's do that way. At least I know where the money is coming from, and enjoy the vacation. So we start naming the properties like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Vacations, education, Jasmine's university or Selina's university. Yeah,
Oh, that's a
it
great
worked out.
idea.
Yeah,
So,
it gives you the motivation, like you said, the
Yeah.
purpose, right?
Persevere, and I like it.
Yeah.
mhm. So how did you go, Nasir? You bought your first property in Brampton, and then how did you get like I think a lot of people always have that kind of blockage. Like, how did you get to the second one or the third one? Did you refinance the first one, or did you save up and then buy another one? Like, I think that a lot of people ask that
They
question,
get
you know?
stuck. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a refinancing as well. So
Okay.
refinancing is part of this, but I'm talking about 2009 to 2010, where we were all investing by using 5%, 10%.
Yeah, that was
You
Yes.
where
know,
the
those
good days.
good days. So
Yes.
I kind of spread the money a little bit until the 20% rule came up, and then I started my strategy on refinancing and basically pulling the money out and paying off. But along the way, as part of the 5-0 goal, was that if I'm sticking my ground in Canada, which is I've been doing for 30 years, but there has to be a goal associated to that, which
Mhm.
is live free, like own your own house. Okay.
Mm.
So clear, nobody is there. If anything happens to me or whatever, my family or my kids, will not be worried that the bank will come and wonder who's paying the mortgage and why,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So as part of the 5-0, I said when I turned 5-0, right, at that time, when I turned 5-0, this house will be paid off. So that will be for
Wow.
the kids, and my wife and the family. So we have a safe place, safe area to live in. I mean, we still have to pay the property taxes and stuff like that, but
But it's much more affordable.
that's right. So if I can do that when I hit 5-0, then the strategy becomes now is pulling that line of credit as well and I start investing, So it
Yeah.
became like a bank, my little bank, where, $500,000 house. Now I can pull out equity and I can buy a property that makes sense, So I started using refinancing for that, which we did. It opened up a line of credit and then start using the line of credit to go to the next level. So that's kind of strategy happening. Along the way, I'm refinancing the other properties as well.
That's a great plan. You must be very disciplined, Nassir.
Yes.
It's it's one of those things that discipline. I would say I'm. You look at my desk. Sometimes my wife judges me like by saying it's disorganized, but it's all organized here, right? So
Okay.
my desk is kind of yeah. I think what they say like you if you want it, you will try to manipulate information around, and
Yeah.
it's a trial and error for sure. So it worked out that way because, like I said, having those goals in line really helped, and they are very small goals. Like, I don't want my kids to own $60,000 of their tuition
Student
fees,
debt.
student debts.
Yeah.
How can I do that, right? So it really started when they were, at that time they were like 5 or 10. That's when I started the journey.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's yeah, discipline in a way, but strategies, listening to going to our meetups, our webinar workshops, just seeing what others are doing, and do the small steps as you go for your own, right? One thing I really learn in here is that do it what works for you, because sometimes we
Yeah.
try to do big stuff and we get frustrated. So I start doing things that, okay, well, how can I pay the kids education? Simple
Yeah.
as that, that becomes a goal, and then next and next and next,
And then you're just reverse engineering.
I
That's
love it.
right.
A lot of people start comparing. Oh, this person has 100 doors. I need 100 doors, or 1,000 doors, or I
Yeah,
need to quit my job right away, or whatever
yeah,
it is. But I mean, like you said, you do you. What works for you? You know yourself better than anyone else. Like
that's right.
Jennifer and I, we know what works for us and what doesn't.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's
So,
so important, right? Because we get caught in that loop. And I've
oh
been
yeah,
there. I've been sincerely in that loop as well. And
that's
it drove me
normal.
nuts, right? But, it's normal. And, but if it gives me a fuel as well, it's like a
Yeah,
motivation to do
Mhm.
it at my own level, So I can
Absolutely.
use that as a motivation and then say, what can I do at my level? And then execute at your level. I may not be climbing the mountain, but I can walk slowly to the mountain, right?
yeah.
So I cannot go faster like everybody else, but I will get there,
Yes,
And that's
that's a good
okay.
point.
And
Yeah.
incremental change. I love the, I forget the name of the author, but 1% change makes a huge difference. So if you keep improving and building on what you have, it
That's right.
doesn't take much. And compare yourself against yourself as well. Where were you a year ago?
Yeah,
Where were you, Nassir, in 2008? That's 14 years ago now. Like, that's a very different situation.
Mhm.
And you've accomplished a lot in those 14 years. So is that
that's
14
right.
years?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, you can still
I can
count.
still count. There you go. I was saying that maybe it's like 12 years, 10 years. I don't know.
So,
Yeah,
so
it's been a long, yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
14 years. So tell us, Nasir, how is the 5O investor group helping others to start out
Yeah.
investing? What are you, do you have a program? Are you
Or
doing
a
JVs
podcast.
or a podcast? What are you doing to
Yeah,
help others invest?
yeah. So first thing is I enjoy talking to people that looking for how some information in my own mosque or church, I meet people, they ask me question. I'm very open to the investment and share them, and it's up to the individual people if they want to do it or not.
Yeah.
But I always try to share, whatever I learned and whatever the risk I've taken, and how they can mitigate the risk. I share that. But really, what I start doing the podcast is, one thing I looked at it is, the podcast name is the Due Diligence Nuggets, and
Oh,
the whole point were why, you hear people that, especially in our own circles, like, of investing, family, friends, co-workers, those three circles, you will hear a lot that how you deal with the tenant, they
Yeah.
must be trashing your place, you must be crazy. So so I thought, due diligence nuggets is basically bringing people together, no matter how big the portfolio is. It could be one house, two houses, but then bring them to share what are the due diligence they did to buy this property.
Yeah.
What
mm,
was the mindset about them? And share that with everybody else so that they can see. My goal was helping each Canadian to buy at least one home. Don't become an investor,
Yeah.
but is to build that wealth, just to have one house, and how it's going to change your either one kid's life or your vacation lifestyle, all of those, right?
Or if you're sick and you need access to money, you can sell it, and now you
Exactly.
have a fund of some kind. Or
100%. Yeah, exactly. So I thought, you know what, I can help people by educating them to say these are the things you can do if you follow the due diligence approach, is reducing the risk.
yeah,
But it
mm-hmm.
is much better to reduce the risk, and you understand the risk and the steps you are taking. So therefore, you become more comfortable,
that's
to
it.
take those actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I started the podcast, and I thought, you know what, I give back to the community, and in a different way. Like, we know there is lots of strategies out there,
Oh
but
yeah,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk to individuals that took the first step, and what did they do? It could be simple as, I met a great realtor, and these are the things they made me do. Go see the neighborhood, wait in the parking lot at nighttime. Like, when I started, I'll
yeah.
give you a good example. I had a house in Hamilton, which I sold in 2012.
There's some dicey neighborhoods there.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. On the east side of Hamilton, and
Mm.
it was very interesting. So I decided before I bought the property, as part of my last due diligence, was I'm gonna go camp out outside the house, and I'm gonna sit there
Wow.
in my
See what's
car,
going on, and
drinking my coffee, driving around at 11 p.m. And I'm still living in Brampton, so I'm 11 midnight. I'm driving around slowly, pick up my coffee, come back, and that was
try
a part of just to see if there is
to
any
stay awake.
owls, owls coming out of the nighttime. People usually come at nighttime to party.
Yeah,
So that was part of a checklist. I said, you know what, let me do that as a checklist and see if any craziness is happening at nighttime. But luckily, nothing happened. The property was surrounded by four churches, which is great.
it keeps things
So
calm, I
keep
guess.
calm. Imagine every time you commit a crime, you can see the church looking at you.
Yeah.
There is a four churches, so it must be good for the humanity for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
So that became part of the due diligence.
Analyze the neighborhood
Analyze the
by
neighborhood.
physically being there at night.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I
I've never
never.
heard before.
No,
Yeah.
this is really cool. So everybody got to check out what is the name again of your
Due
podcast?
diligent
Due
nuggets.
Due
Diligence
diligence
Nuggets.
nuggets. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. That's such
Yeah,
a
that
great
that
name.
was awesome. Yeah, I learned
Mm-hmm.
a lot from that perspective. The area, where can I go grab a coffee? Where can I go buy garbage bags? Where the family will go buy groceries. So and physically I was going there myself with my car. Pretending I'm gonna live there
Yeah.
and I'm
And how
gonna do all these
convenient and
things.
desirable is it?
Yeah,
So it's good you put yourself kind of in your tenant's shoes as well. So if you have phone calls for things, then you know the area
yeah.
and the town much
Especially,
better.
the other thing is, not everybody has two cars. So is
No.
there a transportation around if my spouse or kids or stuff like that needs to go
Mm-hmm.
buy groceries, milk, eggs, whatever? How they will get there? Well, it's a walking distance, which is check mark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point. So
Yeah.
can you share with us one other little due diligence tidbit that maybe you've learned recently?
From a guest or something.
Uh, what? Yeah, I think one lots of things came up. The latest is really the projects that we are doing for conversions.
Mm,
And the permits and the windows, all of those things. So basically, talking to others, it was you have to go backwards. The idea is you buying for duplex conversion, but then you need to buy in mindset that it has to meet the zoning, it has to meet the
Yeah,
yeah.
ceiling
egress.
height, egress, right? The ceiling heights and all of those things. Because I know there was another person I was talking to. They bought a property, as another good example is, and they called me to say, "Hey, Nassir, what should I do now?" Well, it turns out they bought a property. They did not know that that zone was student rental, and they needed
Oh,
a whole sort of permits and
very different.
right. So if you take that backwards, right? So you want to do a due diligence, you want to do the conversion. Look at the requirements before you buy the property,
Yeah, not after.
not after, right? So
Much
now,
harder to go against the city rules and things and try to
exactly.
get zoning changes.
So some example is people end up going to underpin the whole basement floor because they want to meet the ceiling heights, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Which adds up lots of costs on that.
And maybe the soil isn't good for that. So like maybe you're on clay, or
That's right.
it's an area that's prone to flooding, and now you're
Flooding,
building a
that's a good one.
basement
Yeah,
in flooding, a flood zone. Or
yeah, yeah. Actually, in Brampton, the property that I own till today, you have those small. It's like a sewer system, but it's like a rainwater coming down, right? So they
yeah,
have ditches, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then I realized that those ditches, they go through the neighborhood. And my simple analogy, when I was looking at Sudbury just a few weeks ago, I will not buy something that I'm backing towards a mountain of rocks behind me,
yeah,
or through the that area where that water canal is.
Mm.
yeah, because it's leading the water towards your property. So
So imagine in Sudbury, lots of properties have like places where you have a big rock mountain in the back,
yeah,
but when it rains, that water has to go somewhere, right? So
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. I mean, no, may not be a big deal, but again, I want to invest and feel that as minimum effort I can put in.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it makes a
As
lot of
possible.
sense.
Yeah. So stuff like that I kind of considered as well. Not necessarily just the deal, the number look good, but how much can I sleep at nighttime?
Yes.
The words of wisdom, you
Yes,
heard it. You got
absolutely.
to sleep at night. It's great to invest, but if your properties are stressing you out constantly, you lose
It's
quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the
That's true.
point? I mean, we don't know how long we're here for, so gotta
That's
enjoy
right.
every moment.
Yeah. So Jennifer, again, quality of life has become so important to me now these days.
Mm-hmm.
I started my journey when I was 39, right? So I'm not a 5'0" now, 5'1" now, 5'2". But again, what became very clear is the purchase or anything I'm doing is the quality of life.
Mm.
Not necessarily when we started the journey, you will hear number of doors. I have this.
Yeah,
The first question people will
normal.
ask
You're
you, how many
excited.
doors do you have?
Mm-hmm.
And I literally told one person, it doesn't matter because for
No.
me, one door is completely enough.
Yeah.
Than having 100 doors or 50 doors. So it's the quality of life. So choosing what I want to do and then purchase for that.
And
Yeah.
sleeping at night, I love
Yeah,
it. And giving back, if you help others along the way, it also helps you. So it just feels good. And yeah, it's kind of
that's right.
why the same reason we also started Wine and Real Estate, to help others, to share the knowledge, and to educate, and hopefully some people can
Yeah,
learn from our mistakes and from our guests' mistakes and wins as well. Like what
Mm-hmm.
that's right.
what are
Yeah,
good
I
strategies.
mean, our friend Brian from Mortgage Mission 35, I think, right?
Yes.
So he has a nice book, because I was talking to him and I told him this has been my goal, like to help Canadians, to anybody to buy at least one property,
Yeah.
because I've seen it. It will change your life. It will change in a way that the worry will be less. You lose a job, that's fine. This
You
will
have
help
that
you,
house
right?
that can
So
help you.
so he has a book for that, and he explains very well in a small book that he had. He sent me a copy for it, and it basically says one property at a time or something like that, and it's
Wow.
beautifully explained in there. So he has that, and we just connected. I said, "This is exactly what I'm trying to do," and you wrote a book about
Perfect.
it.
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
and
awesome.
and for him, he's doing that for helping people and his business and clients to prosper as well, right? So again, you know what, this is what it is. We are in the land of opportunity in Canada. We came for a reason in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
to put our sticks here on the ground and grow our families. So I really want everybody else to really enjoy that and do it.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your story, Nassir. I'm
Yes.
sure you could talk to
Please,
us for
oh
hours. We've got
yes,
all kinds of stories. We just barely scratched the surface, but we'll have to have you on again and maybe in a year's time for an update
pleasure.
on how many vacations did you take, what happened, like what new adventures have you been up to, and
Yes.
Yes,
for your podcast, an update as well. So thank you. It's been a
appreciate.
pleasure. What's the best way for our listeners to get a hold of you if they want to hear about your podcast or chat with you or
Yes, yeah. On Instagram is the best way, at 50 Investor Group, and pretty much all my links for my podcast will be on the bio there. But again, I'm a message away. If people need some help or question, or just want to chat, I'm offering my shoulder here. It's
Mm-hmm.
anytime people want, I'm open to it. Not only investment, but again,
yeah,
for the past 30 years being in Canada, we learn a lot. We made a mistake, and we go through emotions. So I definitely can also support others that are going through rough life.
adjusting
Yep,
to this crazy country. It
absolutely.
is a land of opportunity, but there is some craziness
Craziness,
as
yes,
well.
Yes.
where we can navigate through.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nessie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Pleasure. Thank you again.